Michigan is set up for quite the week for severe weather with 3, maybe even 4 days of severe weather from this Monday to next Monday. And I'm going to be talking about the main three that are going on in the next 3 days. With this one first, this is today. This is Monday, April 13th. And a lot of Michigan is under actually, pretty much all of Michigan is under a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk, with a decent amount of it being under a level 2 slight risk. And I know level 1 and level 2 out of 5 sound pretty low, but these are for severe weather. So this is like the likelihood of severe weather, not the likelihood of a thunderstorm. So the likelihood of a thunderstorm is high in these areas. It's like how much severe weather is going to be produced from those thunderstorms. That's what this chart is describing, this graphic. Hail-wise, it's not a very intense storm prediction. It is a 15% chance, and I think that is enough to see some large hail in some of these storms coming in tonight. Wind-wise, it's pretty much the exact same. Maybe you could see some trees down, some limbs down. Not super likely. I don't think it'll be widespread power outage. Now, we do have a 2 to 4% chance for a tornado, and that could obviously cause a lot more damage than what I've just been talking about. The likelihood of a tornado occurring in this region is unsure right now, but I'm going to take a look at the models and we can find that out. But that's not all. This is just tonight, and those storms will probably be rolling in around 9 p.m., but we'll get into the models shortly. Tuesday, I think, is a little bit more of a cause for concern in terms of severe weather. This is tomorrow, Tuesday, April 14th, and you can see most of the lower peninsula is under a level 2 slight risk, with an enhanced risk, a level 3, actually creeping across the lake. And so storms that'll be coming from this region should be moving into Michigan, and depending on how the forecast sets up, they could keep their strength and cause level 3 risk in the future. But let's just take a look at this. 15% chance of hail once again, most of the lower peninsula, with a little bit of a significant hatched area. So this means possibly very large hail that could do more damage than most, tiny pebbles. And I'll keep an eye on that. And wind is about the same. I think we definitely could see some power outage here. Maybe just a couple trees down. I'm not sure yet. We'll take a look at the models, as I said. Once again, a 2 to 4% chance of a tornado, pretty much entirely covering the lower peninsula of Michigan. And the UP is almost untouched in both of these, or this event right here, other than this little corner right here. But yeah, I think all hazards are possible, but we could take a look at the models here in a moment. Looking at Monday, April 13th, this is tonight of the date that I'm making this video, you can see that it's pretty clear. It's a really lovely day out right now, a little bit humid, but these high temperatures are going to be causing the storms that are going to be coming in to be a little bit stronger. And so this is 9 p.m. tonight, and you can already see some discrete cells showing up in southern lower Michigan. And these do have the opportunity, the chance to become severe. I definitely think that you could see some hazards in this, but you could see there's a clear blob, you could call it, of strong storms moving in here. And I think these going into, east side of Michigan towards Flint could also be severe. And we've got kind of like this little line up here, around the center of the lower peninsula. And this is midnight, mind you. So this is an overnight storm, which is why I don't think they're going to be as strong as if they were 6 hours earlier. But you could see all these storms kind of move through the lower peninsula overnight. And I think the severe risk probably should end on this wave right here. So you could be at 3 a.m. moving into Flint, Michigan, and you could see some severe weather. But I think the strongest chance for severe weather would be on the coast coming off the lake over into Michigan. I think that could be a strong storm there that we're looking at. Now, a big thing that I'm looking at is now that we are moving into a warmer pattern for Michigan, it looks like we could possibly be finally going into spring. We are looking at large amounts of CAPE, and now this is the gasoline for thunderstorms. And we're talking up to 2,000 CAPE in some of these regions, and going into 9 p.m. where those cells are popping up, there is a lot of fuel in the atmosphere to get these storms going. So that's why I would keep an eye on those storms if you are in the southern part of Michigan, or anything that pops up in the later evening hours. And then the storms really move through later in the night, and we still are easily going above 1,000 CAPE. This is enough to fuel the storm to severe levels. And so I will be keeping an eye on all of these storms. But yeah, I think that these could be, a decent level of severity. Another thing to watch for is there is a lot of storm relative helicity in place for a lot of these storms. And when you have CAPE, which is air moving rapidly upward, essentially, and you have storm relative helicity, there is a much higher chance for circulation for tornadoes. And you can see where some of these storms form near Kalamazoo, kind of like the Union City tornado. They have a lot of CAPE and a lot of storm relative helicity. So I'd keep an eye on those storms if they do show up, as this model says. And there's a lot of storm relative velocity in place. I think that tornado wise, we could be seeing maybe one or two isolated tornadoes tonight, and that's very hard to say. A lot of storms that get a slight risk. Usually, that is one of the hazards. I'm not saying for sure there will be. I'm just saying that is a possibility. And if we look at the hodograph, which gives us a lot of information on the atmosphere just before some of those storms start moving in, you could see a large amount of high end CAPE. I mean, we're seeing up to 2,300 on the surface, and the possible hazard type does say marginal tornado, and I agree with it. I think we could be seeing that, especially with this. This is very weird kind of shape. I mean, a lot of strange movement going on with the air in the higher levels of the atmosphere, starting at the lower, all the way up, I would say. Um, Shear is a little bit lower, so I think maybe supercells are gonna struggle to form. But that doesn't mean that you can't see strong storms. Just maybe nothing that can produce like a long-lasting tornado, which is very good. We don't want another one of those near Union City. And same thing for these storms over here. As they move in with those possibly strong winds, we can see the hodograph becomes much more favorable for tornadoes. This is a large arch for storm relative velocity, and we're seeing storm relative velocity all the way up to 400. But thankfully, that CAPE has dropped quite a bit. But it still says marginal tornado is a possible hazard. And you can see the temperature shift when we go from 70s, like, mid 70s to high 60s, and you can see the storms move in. This is not a cold front, so these storms are just kind of coming off this very warm section of the United States right now that is pushing into Michigan. And I think now that this warm weather has reached up to the top of the lower peninsula, I think a lot of the lower peninsula could be seeing the severe weather that we've been seeing on the far southern side of Michigan in the next coming months or month. I'd say April could be a very active month for severe weather for not just the United States, but Michigan as well, which is pretty unusual. I mean, we had snow, I think, the 18th of April last year or the year before that. And so we are definitely getting into a warm pattern earlier than we usually do. Now, let's take a look at the Tuesday storms. Now, this is probably going to be another late night hour storm, which is not good for anybody, really. This is Tuesday, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. We are going to see some cells down in Ohio, Indiana, and you can already see some very strong supercells and storm signatures forming on Wisconsin and northern Illinois. And I think these definitely have the chance to produce tornadoes, but we are not worried about that because once they get into Michigan, that's what we have to worry about. And you can see a cluster of storms forming here in central lower peninsula Michigan. And I think these could become supercellular, could produce a tornado. But this is what we're really looking at here. This is a strong bow echo formation. And once again, I remind you, this is Tuesday, April 14th. Tomorrow night, this is 11 p.m. as it comes through a large amount of Michigan. And with this bow echo formation, this is going to probably bring strong winds. This is usually what we see in Michigan around June and July. So it is interesting to see this. I can't really tell right now from the model if it's going to be a QLCS type storm, which means like a squall line, just one big line with a lot of strong winds, or if it's going to be clumps of cells that could be much more dangerous for tornadoes. If we look at the sounding around 11 p.m., we can see possible hazard is tornado. It is no longer marginal tornado, it is tornado. We have to keep a close eye on the tornado risk for this night because you could have a quick spin up tornado. You could have even some strong tornadoes going through central lower Michigan, depending on if this atmosphere can break the cap. As you can see, there is a pretty strong capping inversion stopping this huge amount of CAPE from really fueling a possible tornado. And so there is a lot of fuel in the atmosphere, but if this capping inversion does its job, there's a good chance that these storms will not produce as much as they could do. Now, for this clump of storms over here in the central lower Michigan, there is no capping inversion, so you have to, or not as strong of one. You have to keep an eye on tornadoes for this region. I mean, we're seeing up to 400 storm relative helicity as these storms move in. And I don't want to say, oh yes, there's going to be a tornado on Tuesday night. We've had many setups in Michigan where it looks like there's going to be, and there's usually nothing. And so I'm just putting out the thought in your head that there could be that hazard to keep an eye on. But yeah, there is a large amount of storm relativity, and if you don't know what that is, you haven't picked that up yet. That is basically spin in the atmosphere. If it can produce a tornado, there's going to be a lot of storm relativity in the air, and these brighter, these darker colors, um, like the purple and white, these mean very high levels of storm relativity. And if we're gonna be looking at shear, if these storms can form like supercellular structures, there's plenty of shear in the atmosphere. I think there is definitely enough for some strong storms to really get themselves organized as these storms move into the later hours. Um, and if we look at the significant tornado parameter, it's very high in Michigan. As these storms come in, it's very high. Definitely something to look after. Because we could be seeing all kinds of hazards, and we don't really want to be having to worry about tornadoes as these storms move in. So, yeah, I don't know. It looks like a very interesting Tuesday night, and I'll probably make another video tomorrow. I think I'll have the time. I'll be keeping an eye on these storms, but definitely keep an eye on your radar on Tuesday night. And we are not done there. We actually have a marginal risk for a decent amount of the lower peninsula in Michigan on Wednesday, April 15th. And if we take a look at that, this is a much less scary looking system. I think maybe this is just a result of the warm temperatures plus a couple pop up thunderstorms maybe gaining some strength. We could see here 2 p.m. Wednesday. You have some showers throughout the area. This is a longer range forecast model, so it's a little bit harder to tell. And so we could just be seeing some pop-up thunderstorms here that could have a couple, maybe possibly severe thunderstorms, but I don't think this is one to worry about too much. Definitely Monday and Tuesday night, tonight and tomorrow night are the most concerning severe weather systems. But yeah, I think this is all that I have to cover. Just keep an eye on your radar. Um, Keep an eye on your warnings. Don't plan any outdoor activities at 9 to 11 p.m. on Monday or Tuesday nights. And yeah, just keep an eye on the storms before you go to bed.